Number 10. The Parrot Fever Pandemic. Worldwide 1929. In 1929, people across 4 continents began dying from a disease nobody could name. It started with the people who loved parrots. Hundreds of households in the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Argentina had recently bought exotic birds imported as part of a booming global trade in South American and Australian parrots. The birds looked healthy. Their owners had no idea the disease was psittacosis, a bacterial infection that parrots and parakeets carry without showing symptoms. It spreads through dried droppings. A person does not need to be bitten. They only need to breathe the same air as an infected bird. By the time doctors understood what was happening, about 800 people had fallen ill across multiple countries at the same time. 100 of them died. Families were infected one after another inside their own homes, each one exposed by the same bird sitting in the corner of the living room. Health authorities in several countries ordered emergency bans on parrot imports. Infected birds were killed and their cages destroyed. The outbreak faded within a year as trade was cut off and the source animals were removed. The reason 800 cases never became 800,000 was geography. The infection does not spread easily between people. It needs a bird in the middle. Remove the birds, stop the spread. Doctors made that connection just in time. The mortality rate among those infected reached nearly 20%, and for several months, nobody in medicine had any idea what was killing these people or where it came from. Number 9. The monkeypox outbreak, United States 2003. In May 2003, a 3-year-old girl in Wisconsin developed a fever, a rash, and swollen lymph nodes. Her parents had recently bought her a prairie dog from a pet store. The prairie dog was sick. Within weeks, dozens of people in 6 U.S. states reported the same symptoms. Investigators traced every case back to the same source, a single shipment of small African mammals that had arrived in Texas weeks earlier. The animals were Gambian pouched rats, rope squirrels, and dormice imported from Ghana. They had been stored at an animal distribution center alongside hundreds of prairie dogs. During that time, the African animals infected the prairie dogs. The prairie dogs then went to pet stores across the Midwest. People who bought them, handled them, or were simply bitten took the virus home. It was the first time monkeypox had ever been documented outside of Africa. 71 people were infected. Most recovered. No one died. But the virus had crossed an ocean inside a box of pet animals and reached a pediatric ward in Wisconsin. The outbreak was stopped partly by luck. Monkeypox spreads less efficiently than similar viruses, and was caught before it could establish itself in wild rodent populations in North America. Officials moved to ban imports of African rodents. Had the virus made that jump into local wildlife, the story would have been far harder to end. Number 8. The Hendra virus outbreak, Brisbane, Australia, 1994. In September 1994, a pregnant racehorse was moved from a paddock on the outskirts of Brisbane to a training stable in the suburb of Hendra. Within 2 days of arrival, she was dead. Her symptoms were extreme: frothy nasal discharge, labored breathing, rapid collapse. Within a week, 20 more horses at the same stable showed similar signs. Most of them died too. The trainer, a 49-year-old man named Vic Rail, had been nursing the sick horses himself, feeding them by hand. Staying close, he fell ill on September 19 and was dead within a week. A stable hand who worked alongside him also became infected but survived. Scientists scrambled to identify what had killed both horses and a human at the same time. It took weeks. The answer was a virus nobody had ever seen before, later named Hendra after the suburb where it appeared. The source turned out to be flying foxes, large fruit bats that roosted in nearby trees. Bat urine had dripped onto the horses' grazing pasture. The fatality rate in humans who contracted Hendra turned out to be 57%. 7 people have been infected in Australia since 1994, and 4 of them have died. The virus does not spread person to person, which is the only reason Hendra has never moved beyond a handful of cases. Scientists studying it still call it one of the most dangerous bat-borne viruses ever discovered. A vaccine for horses became available in 2012. There is still no licensed vaccine for humans. Number 7. The Marburg virus outbreak, West Germany, 1967. In August 1967, workers at a pharmaceutical factory in the German town of Marburg began falling ill. They were scientists and lab technicians employed at Beringwerke, one of the most respected vaccine manufacturers in Europe. Their job was to process kidney cells from imported African green monkeys to develop batches of polio vaccine. It was considered routine work. The symptoms started with headaches and high fever. Within days, patients developed severe internal bleeding. Blood appeared from unusual places. Some were dead within a week. By the time health officials recognized they were dealing with something unknown, 25 workers had been infected in Marburg, Frankfurt, and Belgrade. 7 of them died. The source was a shipment of green monkeys from Uganda. The animals had been rerouted through London during the Six-Day War and held in airport storage before being shipped to the 3 laboratory locations. Somewhere along that chain, the virus had moved from the monkeys to the people handling them. Nobody on staff had worn adequate protection. Nobody had been warned. The virus they encountered was something science had never classified before. It was eventually named Marburg virus, and it belongs to the same family as Ebola. The case fatality rate in later African outbreaks reached 88%. In 1967, it appeared without warning in the middle of a European city, inside a factory making a vaccine that was saving children from polio. Number 6. The H5N1 bird flu outbreak, Hong Kong 1997. In May 1997, a 3-year-old boy in Hong Kong was admitted to hospital with respiratory failure. He died 9 days later. Lab tests sent to the Netherlands and the United States came back with results that alarmed scientists worldwide. The child had been infected with a strain of influenza that had never before been seen in a human being. It had come directly from chickens. Prior to 1997, scientists believed that bird flu viruses could only reach humans by first mixing with pig viruses. What happened in Hong Kong broke that assumption entirely. H5N1 had jumped the species gap from poultry to a child with no intermediate step. Over the following months, 17 more cases were confirmed in Hong Kong. 6 of those people died. The death rate stood at 33%, comparable to some of the most lethal flu strains in history. Investigators determined the source was Hong Kong's live poultry markets, where 120,000 birds were sold daily at close range to thousands of buyers. On December 28, 1997, health authorities made the decision. Every chicken in every poultry market in Hong Kong was to be killed immediately. 1.6 million birds were slaughtered within 5 days. The human cases stopped. Virologists who studied the 1997 strain later said the virus was just a few genetic changes away from acquiring the ability to spread between people. If that mutation had occurred before the call, the consequences would have been very difficult to predict. Number 5. The Ebola outbreak, Yambuku, Zaire, 1976. On September 1, 1976, a 44-year-old teacher in the village of Yambuku received an injection of chloroquine at the local mission hospital for what was presumed to be malaria. He had been traveling near the Ebola River in northern Zaire. Within days, he was dead from a hemorrhagic illness so severe that the nurses who treated him became sick too. The mission hospital had 120 beds and just 17 nursing staff serving a region of 60,000 people. Each morning, 5 syringes were distributed for the entire day's patient load. They were rinsed in warm water between injections, not sterilized. By the time anyone understood what was happening, the same 5 needles had carried a new virus into dozens of bodies in rapid succession. The virus spread through the hospital, through the village, into the surrounding area. Of 318 people infected, 280 died. The kill rate was 88%. Containment came not from medicine but from geography and fear. The region was remote. Roads were poor. As word spread of the dying, people stopped coming to the hospital. The nuns shut the facility entirely. International health teams arrived and placed the area under quarantine, mapping the chains of infection house by house. Ebola stayed in Yambuku because Yambuku was isolated. A Belgian nursing sister, Sister Miriam Ikran, died caring for patients before anyone knew what the disease was. She was the first person from whom the Ebola virus was ever isolated in a laboratory. The virus was named after the nearby river, not the village, to spare the community from being permanently associated with the outbreak. Number 4. The SARS outbreak, China and worldwide, 2002 to 2003. In November 2002, patients in Guangdong province in southern China began arriving at hospitals with an unusual pneumonia. It spread rapidly inside the wards. Doctors and nurses treating the patients became sick themselves. Chinese authorities initially described the outbreak as a common respiratory illness and did not notify international health organizations for several months. By February 2003, a single doctor named Lu Jianlun traveled from Guangdong to Hong Kong and checked into room 911 on the 9th floor of the Metropole Hotel. He was already ill. Over the following days, at least 12 other guests and visitors on the same floor were infected. Those people then boarded flights to Singapore, Canada, and Vietnam. The virus left China in the luggage of travelers before most of the world knew it existed. The disease was SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, caused by a coronavirus that had originated in bats and likely passed through civets sold at live animal markets. It infected more than 8,000 people in 29 countries and killed nearly 800. The case fatality rate was close to 10%. Containment required months of contact tracing, quarantine, and travel restrictions on a scale that had not been attempted since the era before modern air travel. Toronto, Canada alone had 44 deaths, and its hospital system was pushed to the edge. SARS stopped spreading, not because of a vaccine which did not exist, but because the virus happened to make people visibly sick before they became contagious. That single biological trait made it possible to isolate cases before they spread further. Scientists who studied it afterward said that if the timing had been reversed, the outcome would have looked very different. Number 3. The Nipah virus outbreak, Malaysia, 1998. In late 1997, fruit bats roosting in mango trees above a pig farm near the town of Ipoh in Malaysia began dropping half-eaten fruit into the pens below. The pigs ate the fruit. The pigs began getting sick with a barking cough and neurological symptoms. Farm workers who had close contact with the sick pigs developed high fevers, headaches, and swelling of the brain. The disease was initially diagnosed as Japanese encephalitis, a known illness in the region. Authorities vaccinated pigs against it. People continued to die. The mistake cost months. By the time doctors at the University of Malaya correctly identified a new and unknown virus in early 1999, the outbreak had spread to 11 pig farming regions across Malaysia and into Singapore through the movement of infected animals. A total of 294 people were infected, and 110 died. The kill rate was approximately 40%. Among those who survived, some developed delayed neurological problems months later, including relapsing brain infections. To stop it, Malaysia slaughtered over 1 million pigs within weeks. The virus, named Nipah after the village where samples were collected, has a fatality rate in some outbreaks of up to 75%. It can spread person to person. There is still no approved vaccine or treatment for it. Outbreaks continue to occur in Bangladesh and India almost every year. The World Health Organization has listed Nipah as a priority pathogen with serious pandemic potential, not because of what it has done, but because of what it could do if a more transmissible strain emerged in a densely populated area. Number 2. The Reston Ebola outbreak, Virginia, USA, 1989. On October 4, 1989, a cargo flight landed at Dulles International Airport outside Washington, D.C., carrying 100 crab-eating macaques from the Philippines. They were transported to the Hazleton Research Products Primate Facility in Reston, Virginia, 10 miles from the capital, to begin the standard 3-1-day import quarantine. Within weeks, the monkeys were dying 2 or 3 each day. Lab staff sent tissue samples to the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases at Fort Detrick. A 27-year-old intern named Thomas Geisbert put them under an electron microscope and stopped cold. What he saw matched one virus above all others: Ebola. Initial tests indicated the Zaire strain, the most lethal form known, with a human kill rate of 50 to 90%. Workers who had handled the monkeys were tracked down. Health officials across 3 states were quietly notified. Army containment teams in full protective gear euthanized the remaining 500 monkeys. The building was soaked in bleach and flooded with formaldehyde gas. 4 workers tested positive for the virus. None became ill, none died. Virologists eventually determined that the Reston strain, through some unexplained genetic difference, was lethal to monkeys but harmless to human beings. Nobody knew this until the response was already complete. Scientists who ran the operation later described it as a drill they did not know was a drill. The building was later demolished. A daycare center was built in its place. If the Reston strain had possessed one different genetic trait, Ebola would have arrived in a Washington, D.C. suburb before the world had any tools to stop it. Number 1. The Nipah virus, Bangladesh, and India, every year since 2001. In the years after the Malaysian outbreak, scientists tracked where Nipah went next. The answer was Bangladesh almost every year. The outbreaks stayed small in size, but something about them had changed, and that change is what concerns scientists most. In Bangladesh, the virus was not spreading through pigs. People were being infected by drinking raw date palm sap, a popular local drink collected from tree taps at night. Fruit bats were visiting those collection pots in the dark, leaving urine and saliva behind. Families drank it the next morning. Worse, the Bangladesh strain was spreading person to person. Healthcare workers caring for patients were becoming infected. Chains of transmission stretched 4 or 5 people deep, each one catching it directly from the last. The case fatality rate has reached 75% in some years. There is no vaccine. There is no approved treatment. The incubation period can stretch to 45 days, meaning an infected person can feel completely healthy, travel internationally, and be near hundreds of people before a single symptom appears. The World Health Organization lists Nipah as a priority disease for emergency research. Pandemic preparedness scientists name it among the pathogens most likely to cause a global crisis. If a more transmissible strain emerged near a major population center connected to international air travel, every fruit bat in Southeast Asia still carries it. Every unprotected date palm tap is another encounter between the virus and a human being. Each year it appears, spreads a little, and stops. Scientists cannot fully explain why it keeps stopping. They also cannot say what it would take for it to stop. Thank you for watching and sticking till the end. We have got plenty more videos coming in the future. Hit that subscribe button so you do not miss them. See you in the next one.